Now at 10, the U.S. Surgeon General predicts the Omicron spike is still weeks away. We'll have the latest on the surge nationwide. Plus, how Fort Scott and Pitt State are honoring the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
There are hopes tonight that the fast-spreading Omicron variant could help bring an end to the pandemic, even as it's still raging across the U.S. The Surgeon General estimates the surge won't reach a peak for at least another few weeks. Natalie Brand is at the White House with the latest developments.
Long lines snaked through Viking Stadium in Minneapolis, serving as a COVID testing site this week. The city is the latest to require a negative COVID test or proof of vaccination to get into restaurants or bars starting Wednesday.
I'm happy that we're taking action. I feel like the government has been slow to react on the most recent surge in cases.
As the Omicron variant fuels the latest surge, health officials are addressing if it could be the beginning of the end of the pandemic.
I would hope that that's the case. But that would only be the case if we don't get another variant that eludes the immune response.
Other experts say more available home tests will help stop the virus.
Tests allow us to make decisions about whether we're contagious and so a threat to others, whether we can safely return in person to school or to work. To help address shortages, this week the White House is launching the website covidtest.gov for Americans to place orders for free at-home COVID tests starting Wednesday.
The administration says the tests will be limited to 4 per household and are expected to ship within 7 to 12 days of ordering. As case numbers continue to rise, more than 133,000 Americans are currently hospitalized with COVID-19, down 2.5% from the peak the week before. Some of the patients are children, including 3-month-old Baker Mills, who's recovering at Children's Hospital of Georgia in Augusta.
One of our biggest fears when we were pregnant with him was knowing how bad COVID was him getting COVID because of all the unknowns about it.
She says his case is not as bad and attributes that to getting vaccinated while she was pregnant. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, the White House.
Cases are receding in the Northeast, where they set records in recent weeks. Hospitals in Missouri's biggest cities are blaming Omicron for increasing strain on health systems. Virus hospitalizations have risen sharply across Missouri in recent weeks. Thursday, hospitalizations hit 3,526 total. That's more than 700 cases higher than last year's peak. The head of the Mercy Transfer Center in St. Louis says her hospital has had to frequently turn down transfer requests from smaller hospitals that are becoming overwhelmed with the virus. Last week, local health professionals told us they'd seen an increase in hospitalizations, but so far they're keeping up with the workload. As case numbers increase, so does the demand for testing. To meet that demand, Ivy Medical opened a free COVID-19 testing site in Webb City. It provides free rapid antigen tests, which deliver results in 15 to 30 minutes, in addition to PCR tests, which take 24 to 72 hours for results. The Ivy Medical testing site is open Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's at 115 North Madison in Webb City. The snow has been returning back to liquid. Nick Kelly.
Yes, finally due to Dow returning sunshine, something that we were supposed to see yesterday afternoon, but better late than never. We got it back in action today, still looking quiet and clear from 7th Range Line. And that sunshine took us from 24 this morning back above freezing and above normal, with officially the high in Joplin Regional around 47. We're still seeing mostly clear skies right now, but I'm expecting more cloud cover to build as we go throughout the course of the night in anticipation of our next storm system actually ready to hop over the Canadian border. That system doesn't get here and doesn't shake things up until Wednesday. So in the short term, we're taking temperatures mainly in the mid to upper 30s right now. That south breeze and the cloud cover coming in overnight, it's actually going to keep the temperature steady. Most of us around 37 degrees to start the morning out, but even with cloud cover on the increase tomorrow, you can see how that south wind cranks back into gear. That will push us into the 50s for highs tomorrow, Dow, but we got to send the thermometer right back down once we hit Wednesday. We'll break down the forecast here in a bit.
See you then. Fort Scott Community College today honored the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. by holding a presentation about the Dockham drugstore sit-in. That sit-in happened in Wichita in 1958. Black students gathered at the drugstore to stage a peaceful protest against segregation. The guest speaker at today's event is the founder of Storytime Village, a nonprofit that promotes reading among low-income families.
When I learned that the students that were coming into the program knew little about the sit-in, and then later learning that many of the adults in the community, and not just Wichita, but that throughout the state, knew little about the Doctor sit-in, it really has become a passion for me to share the story.
Also, the Gordon Parks Museum hosted screenings of the films Eyes on the Prize, American Civil Rights, and Martin, a tribute to Dr. King, written and directed by Gordon Parks. Pitt State also hosted a ceremony honoring Dr. King. The university held a candlelight vigil and a short program featuring a song, a reading of King's historic letter from a Birmingham jail, and reflections on how King still impacts people today.
It means the right to even be at the school, because once upon a time, years ago during segregation, this may not have been possible for students of color to even attend a university in this area. So it means a lot to me, especially as a parent with small children, that they have opportunities that other people only dreamed of.
Pitt State's MLK Day ceremony took place on the campus oval. Today would have been Betty White's 100th birthday. She died just weeks before hitting that milestone. White was an animal advocate, and in honor of her birthday, the Betty White Challenge has been trending on social media. That challenge calls on everyone to donate at least $5 to a local animal shelter or rescue. Some of our local shelters are participating, including the Joplin Humane Society. Officials there say they're grateful for the extra attention, but they say this isn't the only day they need help.
Donations are definitely needed year-round. We are very fortunate here in Southwest Missouri to have an amazing community who always steps up and helps when we are in need, and we really appreciate them for all of their support.
So far, the Joplin Humane Society has raised more than $3,000 just through Facebook. Still ahead, the latest on the investigation into a hostage situation at a Texas synagogue that the FBI is now calling terror-related. And states call on the U.S. government to reinstate an antitrust lawsuit against Facebook. The FBI tonight says a hostage situation at a Texas synagogue over the weekend was terror-related. Omar Villafranca has more on the investigation.
It was terrifying. It was overwhelming, and we're still processing.
Appearing on CBS Mornings, Rabbi Charlie Citron Walker described the tense 11-hour standoff at Congregation Beth Israel and the moment he realized the man who claimed to be homeless was taking them hostage.
I heard a click, and it could have been anything, and it turned out that it was his gun.
Sources tell CBS News 44-year-old Malik Faisal Akram was a British citizen who arrived at New York's JFK airport about 2 weeks ago. Making his way to Texas, he stayed in a homeless shelter and somehow obtained a gun. Today, one of the hostages says Akram claimed he targeted the synagogue because of its proximity to Afia Siddiqui, a convicted terrorist with suspected ties to al-Qaeda. He demanded her release from a Texas prison as the FBI rescue team flew in from Quantico, Virginia. Hostage Jeffrey Cohen told CBS station KTVT that after 10 hours of negotiations,
he started spouting for a good few minutes. I was going to put a bullet in each of us, whereas earlier in the day, he was going to let us all go, and he was the only one who was going to die. But at that point, he was going to kill each of us. He even told us to get down on our knees.
But before the FBI went in, the hostages saw an opportunity to save themselves.
He put his gun down to pour some soda. And that's the point that Rabbi Charlie threw the chair and yelled, "Run."
I told them to go. I threw a chair at the gunman, and I headed for the door. And all three of us were able to get out without even a shot being fired.
The tactical unit springs into action. Within seconds, Akram was dead. The hostages alive. Like many religious groups, members of this synagogue have been through active shooter training.
We were consciously watching and looking for those opportunities because that is what saved our lives.
Federal investigators are gathering evidence at the synagogue, and agents are talking to people at homeless shelters in North Texas looking for more clues. A lot of states are asking for a reinstatement of a lawsuit against social media giant Facebook. The group, made up of 46 states, Guam and Washington, D.C., says an antitrust lawsuit against Facebook was wrongly dismissed by a federal court that said its filing was too late and should be reinstated. The states want Facebook also declared a monopoly because of anti-competitive business practices. They also want Facebook to be forced to sell off Instagram and WhatsApp, two of its properties. Later, girls high school basketball action as the Southeast Lancer Classic gets underway.
But first, we've got a warmer Tuesday lineup before we trend right back down to the chill for Wednesday. We'll break down the forecast next. After we waited for a while for the cloud cover, the fog, the mist that we had to deal with the other day, once that finally cleared out, we've enjoyed just a beautiful day all around and still looking good with our live shot from Indigo Sky outside of Seneca, Missouri. That is showing clear skies outside. That's how the entire area is faring right now. And those same clear skies that definitely give us a good warm up compared to the upper 20s and lower 30s that Joplin Regional saw yesterday afternoon. After we started in the mid-20s, though, another cold start, but we catapulted, thankfully, right back into the mid to upper 40s around the Joplin area today. Some of you even went into the lower 50s, but we can all go into the 50s tomorrow before Mother Nature sends another chill our way. In the meantime, though, we don't look bad from 7th and Ranch Line. Clear skies here as well. 39 in Joplin with the south wind at 9, making it feel like 33. But that south breeze is actually helping us out this time around. It's keeping most of us in the mid to upper 30s in southwestern Missouri, upper 30s to near 40 for the time being in northeast Oklahoma and southeast Kansas. And even though the breeze has been fairly light throughout the day at 5 to 15 miles per hour, that's what also helped us to warm back up. And this breeze is actually going to stay in place along with additional cloud cover that has yet to develop, but it will be on the way in during the overnight. That's going to keep temperatures steady, and we're going to really see the temperatures take off again once we get past sunrise tomorrow morning. Quiet skies is what we've seen all day long, but a change in the setup is unfolding. We do have a warm front passing just to the north in an area of high pressure over Louisiana. Both of these are doing their job to keep the south wind in place for tonight and certainly kicking it into gear for tomorrow. But you saw how we had a cold front across the Canadian border. That's the next front on the way in. Couple that with some upper level energy out west that'll come along the riding jet stream. That's going to shake things up again by the time we head toward Wednesday. But fortunately, we just have mostly clear skies to start the overnight out. I want to say partly cloudy skies by sunrise, but we'll go from partly sunny skies. I think a little more in the way of cloud cover, mostly cloudy tomorrow afternoon. Despite that, the south wind, not only does it stay in place, but as we pull out your planner, it goes from a light breeze to a 10 to 20 mile per hour breeze during the afternoon with gusts of 25 at times. I see that easily taking us from 36 in the morning, 51 by noon, Joplin at least at 55 degrees, but everyone should go at least mid to even upper 50s before the day is all said and done. Here's midnight, though. Going into Wednesday morning, you see the northerly arrows kicking in. That's a cold front ready to work on through. That means dropping temperatures throughout the day, and as that front whirls through as well. We'll watch for rain chances scattered along and south of Interstate 44. But as the temperatures drop and some moisture lingers, we can't rule out maybe a wintry mix of some rain and some snow. Minor accumulations, if anything can come out of that. Something that Doug and I and Michael Hayslip in the morning will still keep an eye on. But once we get past this system, though, we're dry Thursday and Friday, but we are flat out cold for Thursday and Friday before we see the jet stream head back in our direction and moderate temperatures as we head toward the weekend. So how do the temperatures look beyond the next few days? Well, we'll go from 55 tomorrow to 28 after we have midnight highs around 44 for Wednesday, 11 Thursday morning, mid-teens again for Friday morning, but we'll go from the 20s Thursday afternoon down to 30s on Friday. I think we're back in the 40s once we hit Saturday.
Quite a drop from Tuesday to Wednesday, but it will bounce.
Yes, it will.
Thanks, Nick. Coming up in sports, College Heights and Columbus play in the opening round of the Lancer Classic, and the Bill Hanson Memorial Tournament kicks off later this week. We're going to hear from the Pittsburgh boys head coach next.
The Southeast Lancer Classic begins today for the girls, and all 8 teams are local, a mix of Kansas and Missouri high schools. In the first game of the day, College Heights hits the floor against Columbus. First quarter, Ava Harmon to Jade Fouts. She gets it to drop. Then Maddie Collin from the corner hits the 3, but the Cougars trail. Columbus here now gets the offensive board, and Katie Mooney puts it in for 2. Other way now, Jaylee Johnson calls her own number, knocks down the triple. She finishes with a team-high 18 points. Columbus leads by 1 at half, though, and after the break, Mooney gets the steal, finishes on the other end. 11 points for her. Columbus gets by College Heights in the opening round 43-40. Also in the opening round, Baxter Springs faces Parsons. In the first, Sydney Scheibe knocks down a 3 for the Vikings. That's the first of many. Then off the missed shot, Kaylin Charles steals it away, puts it back in. Team high 15 for Charles. Parsons with the lead at half. And in the third, Eliana Valentine Florence drains the 3. A big lead for the Vikings. And back to Scheibe. She hits her 11th triple of the game, 38 points. Parsons advances with a win over Baxter, 65-27. The Pittsburgh Purple Dragons are hosting the Bill Hanson Memorial Tournament this week. Games kick off for the boys and girls on Thursday. 5 local schools are competing in this year's tournament, and the field is extremely competitive on the boys and girls side. 7 teams are ranked, and 2 of those are number 1 in their state. The Pittsburgh boys will be one of the teams to beat this year. They are 7-1 and ranked 10th in 5A in Kansas. The Purple Dragons are hoping the level of competition helps them improve.
So we're really excited about hosting the tournament this year. Last year we weren't able to host the tournament, but we know this tournament has a lot of great teams coming, and great players are going to be playing in it, and it's just going to help prepare us for the rest of the year. When you play great teams, those little things get magnified, so it'll be good for us to, just retouch on those little things that we preach day in and day out, and hopefully we can take care of those and get better.
The Pittsburgh boys play Owasso in the opening round on Thursday at 7 p.m. Missouri Southern's Lacey Stokes has been named the MIAA Athlete of the Week. Stokes helped lead the Lions to 3 straight wins last week. In those 3 games, Stokes averaged 20.3 points, 6.6 assists, 6 rebounds, and 3.7 steals. And it wasn't just a strong week for Stokes. She's had a strong freshman campaign so far. She leads the MIAA in assists and steals this season and is 3rd in all of Division II in those same categories. Missouri Southern faces a tough road schedule this week at Fort Hays State and at Nebraska Kearney. That's a look at sports. We're back with more news after this.
Take time now to honor a local veteran. Specialist Laura Gooch served in the U.S. Army. Her hometown, Jasper, Missouri. And we are proud to salute Specialist Laura Gooch. She's tonight's 4-state hero. The Springfield area is about to get its 2nd professional sports franchise as the Springfield Lasers of World Team Tennis are about to be joined by the Missouri Thunder, part of the Professional Bull Riders' new team competition. And as Joe Hapeman reports, the Thunder has a very well-known owner.
It is very family friendly.
When PFI Western Wear owner Randy Little lured the professional bull riders circuit to JQH Arena in 2009, Springfield was the smallest market ever to host a PBR event. And now, as the PBR is expanding to a team competition starting this June, Southwest Missouri is one of only 8 cities to get a franchise. The Missouri Thunder, that will be owned by Bass Pro founder Johnny Morris and co-coached by former Hall of Fame riders Luke Snyder and Ross Coleman.
Missouri has the biggest PBR fan base you can imagine. That's why, Springfield is always sold out here in town.
You may have the smallest market in terms of numbers, but you got the biggest heart and the biggest spirit in terms of reception, love for the PBR and the Western sport lifestyle. So it was a natural fit for us to put a team in this locale.
It was also a natural fit to get Johnny Morris as an owner, considering he's already involved in other big-time sports sponsorships, from NASCAR to professional fishing. And PBR Chief Marketing Officer Kosha Irby compared Johnny to another successful businessman that he used to work for, World Wrestling Entertainment Chairman Vince McMahon.
Both of those guys kept going, even in the face of insurmountable odds. When you start talking about the Bass Pro name and what he's built there, you get guys that know how to build things from the ground up. That expertise will allow for us to have a longer runway than some other startup leagues.
The team concept first arose during the pandemic when the PBR sponsored a team event without fans.
And what we realized very quickly was the level of riding went up, the level of camaraderie went up. When they started having to ride and lean on one another, it just created an element that we couldn't replicate.
Which leads one to wonder, considering some of the bulls are as well known as the riders, will the bulls ever get their own team?
I wouldn't put it past this group to come up with a way that bulls create their own franchise and they get to monetize it.
These animal athletes, I mean, that's exactly what they are. The breeding programs for these animals is getting just like the Kentucky Derby.
The 10-event schedule will run from June through November, with a team championship in Las Vegas. The Missouri Thunder will have only one home match its first season, but that will be at the Thunder Ridge Natural Amphitheater at Bass Pro Shooting Academy near Ridgedale, Missouri. In the past, it's hosted concerts, but at a date yet to be determined, there'll be a lot of bull.
We're going to turn that whole entire thing into what's like an NFL game day experience and just put a whole bunch of events and attractions around that and just really blow it out for the Missouri fans.
That bull riding team might get a lot of fans and support in the area. We'll see. The weather looks pretty nice for at least one more day.
Yeah, we'll still climb into the mid-50s tomorrow, despite cloud cover on the increase. At least we're dry for Tuesday. But our next front end for Wednesday will drop us into the 20s throughout the day. And we'll watch for some rain chances, maybe a wintry mix by the afternoon.
Yeah, Wednesday night in particular looking pretty cold. Final sports note.
Parsons and Columbus both get wins today in the Southeast Lancer Classic, so they advance to the semifinal round on Thursday.
Thanks for joining us. Don't forget the morning show starts at 5 a.m. and let's make it a great tomorrow.
Salon service